Hi, buddy. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, based on whichever location you are joining from. First of all, I would like to appreciate your efforts, right? So, in doing research to find the right Salesforce developer training program. And, so before knowing how the whole program is structured, right, let me introduce myself. Myself, Ishwar Naidu. I am a 7x certified Salesforce professional, and I've been working into the Salesforce ecosystem for last 10 years. Okay, so in my overall career, I've been into different roles. I have started my career as a Salesforce administrator, and then I've transitioned into a developer role, right? And after that, I became a consultant, and in my last role, I have worked as a senior manager for so one of the Salesforce development teams. Okay, and currently I am the CEO and co-founder of ExaltLink Academy, right? So this is what my background is. Okay, right? So now, right, so before jumping into what all things that are there in the developer training, right? So let me tell you for whom we have created this particular program for. Okay, so if you're someone looking to learn development and so want to jump into the so Salesforce developer role or something like that, then this particular course is for you. Okay, so you might be anyone, right? You might be a fresher, right? So, or you might be right, some person who is having career break, right? Or you might be already a Salesforce admin, right, who is looking to switch his career into a Salesforce development role, right? So whoever you are, right, so this particular training program is for you. Okay, right, good. Okay, so for someone to get their first job, right, what all things that are needed, right? So as a Salesforce developer, right, for someone who want to get their first job, right, so what all things that are needed, right? There are 6 things that people should aware of, right? Or maybe there are six things that people should make sure that they're following in order to land into their first job, right? So we also call them as 6 strategies or whatever it would be. Okay, right? So it starts with, right, so getting the knowledge. Okay, so getting the knowledge, right? How can we get the knowledge, right? How can we get the knowledge, right? So we can get the knowledge in different ways, right? Either you can learn it on your own, or maybe you can learn it from someone who has been already in that particular position, and so who can help you go to that particular position, right? So whichever way you want to acquire that particular knowledge, you can acquire that particular knowledge. But so getting the knowledge is the first part for someone, right, who want to enter into the ecosystem. Okay, so right, what is that we do in order to, right, so make you acquire that particular knowledge, right? So that is something I'll just show you right away. Okay, so there are few things, right? So you'll have live webinars. Okay, so live webinars followed by, right, followed by live Q&A. Okay, so live Q&A sessions. Okay, so this is what we'll do, right? So every day, right, so throughout your program, every day what you'll have is, right, you'll have a webinar. Okay, so where so my classes or my right, so teachings will be broadcasted, right, for each and every topic, right? If your program is divided into 4 weeks, say for example, right? So in this case, right, this particular program is for almost like so 12 to 14 weeks. Okay, 12 to 14 weeks, right? Each and every concept, right? So that is divided so week wise, right? So for all of this 14 weeks, right? So I would say, so what will happen is that every day, okay, so every day, right, so that particular day's concept will be broadcasted. Okay, so all of those classes were taught by me, and so that particular class will be broadcasted, right? So while listening to that particular class or while listening to those particular concepts, what you can do is you can note down all of your questions, right? If you are getting any I mean like if you I mean like if you're finding difficult to understand a particular concept within that particular right, so teaching or whatever it could be, you can write all of your questions over there. Okay, so once that particular session is done, right, these sessions spans anywhere between 1 hour to 1.5 hours each and every day. Okay, so one hour to 1.5 hours, right, or 1.5 hours, right, whatever you call it, right? So once that session is completed, right, what will happen is that, right, so you will be taken to a live Zoom environment. Okay, so Zoom setup, or maybe so any other right, so online meeting platform, I would say. Okay, so there you'll have a mentor, right, who can answer all of your questions, right, whatever questions that you have, right, so he'll answer all of your questions related to that particular topic. Okay, so and at the same time, right, not just for that particular topic, right, if you have any other questions related to any other topics which are already discussed, right, so till that particular date, right, they'll help you answer all of your questions. Okay, so who are these mentors then, right? These mentors are the people who are working in, right, so right, product and service based companies, and so they have been into multiple roles, and they're having so multiple years of experience working as Salesforce developers, right? So they are the people who will be helping you resolving all your questions. Okay, so that's how you acquire the knowledge, and that's how we help you acquire the knowledge. Okay, so acquiring the theoretical knowledge is not just enough, right? So for someone to become successful in any particular area, right, so what you have to do along with the acquisition of knowledge, you should also know how to apply that particular knowledge, right? That's where, right, so the second strategy comes into picture, right? That's where the second strategy comes into picture, so which we also call it as gaining hands-on experience. Okay, so gaining hands-on experience. Okay, right, so how can you gain hands-on experience, right? So until or unless you are put into a practical situation, right, so most of us can't learn so that particular right, real-time experience, or maybe so most of us won't be able to gain that so real-time experience. But you don't need to worry about it, right? We got you covered here, right? So each and every day, right, so as I told you, each and every day, like so day 2, day 3, or whatever it could be, right? So for each and every concept, right, so what we'll do is, right, so we'll give you a hands-on. Okay, so we'll give you a hands-on, so that what will happen is that that particular concept will be I'm like, you'll be able to absorb that particular concept, whatever that you have I mean, like, so whatever knowledge that you have acquired, right, so you'll be able to remember that for a long time, so once you complete all of these hands-on exercises. Okay, so and these hands-on exercises are, right, not just like so one simple problem that you have to solve or something like that, right? For each and every concept you'll have at least, right, like 6 to 10 not 6 to 10, right, on an average, right, so 10 exercise problems you'll have, hands-on exercise problems you have, and you have to solve them. Okay, so that's how it will be, right? So on an average, I'm saying, right, for some concepts you'll have only 6, right, for some concepts you'll have only 8 or something like that, but for some concepts you'll have so more than 10, right, like 12, 15 or something like that. But on an average, right, for each and every concept we'll have at least 10 problems, right, 10 exercise problems, which will help you to absorb that particular knowledge. Okay, so along with this, right, so there is one more thing. Once you complete so all of those concepts, right, so what we'll do is, right, we'll make you work on industry ready experience programs. Okay, so this is also called as projects. You can call them as project. Okay, so but in our terminology, right, so we call them as industry ready experience, right? So what are these industry ready experience, right? So these are the projects that we have built in collaboration with the Salesforce consulting firms, right? The firms that are already there outside, right? We have built these concepts, right? I'm like, we have built these projects, right, with the help of those companies. Okay, so that's what right, this particular projects is all about, right? What we'll do is we'll divide all of you people into different groups. Okay, so say for example, in your batch there are 30 people. Okay, so what we'll do is, right, we'll divide all of you 30 people into 4 or 5 groups. Okay, so group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4, and group 5, like this. Okay, so now you guys have to work on that particular project as a group, and then you guys have to present that particular project at the end of the, right, so project duration, right? That's how this particular industry ready experience will be. Okay, so now, and then what's next, right? So what's next, right? So the third one, right, so now you have gained the hands-on experience as well, right? So right, so you got the knowledge, and you have acquired all the right, I'm like, so you also learn how to apply that particular knowledge and everything. Okay, so that is very, very good, right? But for someone to get into a job, right, so to get that interview call, right, so there is one thing that is very much needed, which is certification. But this is not mandatory. Okay, this is not mandatory, right? So but if you are having like so 15 to 20 applications for a single job, right, so and they want to interview only 5 people or something like that, so then if you are having certification, then there are more chances that you will be selected for the interview, right? So rather than, right, I mean, like, compared to all other people who have applied for that particular job, right? So that's how certification is also very much important, right? So that's where, right, we help you in clearing your certification exams. Okay, so how we help you in clearing your certification exams, right? So there is only one small thing that we'll do, right? It's not a small thing, right? It's a very big thing. Okay, so what is that we'll do is, right, we will right, so give you access to our certification prep programs, right? So where you'll go and, I mean, like, so you can go and so practice, right, mock tests, right? So based on each and every concept that is there in that particular certification exam, right? So since you are preparing for your developer training, right, since you're preparing for your developer training, okay, so you can, I mean, like, you will be given access to 3 certification exams, right? They are app builder, right? So app builder, and the second thing is, right, so PD1. Okay, so and right, so and the third thing is, right, so PD2. Okay, so these are the programs that you will be given access to. Okay, so but we always suggest our so candidates to, right, at least app builder and the PD1, right? If you are having right, enough resources, right, to fund yourself for the certification exam, right, so we would right, recommend people to go for app builder and the PD1, right? So that's what it is, right? PD2 is something that we are still building, right? The question bank and everything, right? So but that is not very much necessary, right? So this is what it is, right? So you'll be given access to these 3 certification prep programs, right? So if not the PD2, right, will be given access to at least another certification prep program, right? So that is what it is, right? So now you have acquired the knowledge, you know how to apply that particular knowledge, and you I'm like, so you have written your certification exams as well, right? So that's very good, right? So now what's next, right? So you'll get a job? No, right? So just having the knowledge and how to apply the knowledge, and so having a certification with us didn't just simply give us a job, right? So we all know this. I mean, like, so we are in very tough times, right? So and so many companies are firing people, and so at the same time, right, so we are seeing less number of so openings for our Salesforce professionals as well, right? So in that right, conditions, how can you right, so overcome all of these challenges and get your job, right? That's where personal branding comes into picture. Okay, so that's where personal branding comes into picture. What is this personal branding? I'll tell you. Okay, so just give me a second, I'll tell you what this particular thing is all about. Okay, so but before that, let me just simply erase all of this, so that, right, so we'll be on a clean slate. Okay, right, good. Right. Okay, right. So what is this personal branding is all about? Okay, so now it is our responsibility to showcase our skills, okay, to the community. Okay, what community is this? Okay, so what community is this, right? So this community is nothing but, right, the people who are already there in the Salesforce ecosystem. Okay, the people who are already there in the Salesforce ecosystem, right? So we know there are, right, so more than a million people, right, so in India itself, right, so who are working into the Salesforce ecosystem. Okay, so now what you have to do is, right, we have to go and connect with at least 500 people. Okay, so 500 people who are already working into the Salesforce ecosystem, and at the same time we have to follow at least, right, 100 consulting companies, right? 100 Salesforce consulting companies that are already there in the Salesforce ecosystem, right? So there is a whole strategy that will teach you, right, how you can reach out to these people and how you can connect with these people and how you can follow all of these companies, right? We'll give you list of all the Salesforce consulting companies, right? So you can just follow all of those companies so that you'll get to know what all jobs that are there within our Salesforce ecosystem on frequent basis, where you will do all of this, right? You have to do all of this on LinkedIn. Okay, you have to connect with at least 500 people on LinkedIn. Okay, so and then what you'll do, right? So you will showcase all of your knowledge, right? Whatever you are learning, whatever, right, you are doing on each and every day basis, right? So you have to post all of your learnings on LinkedIn, right? So that these people will get to know, right? So there is someone, right, if who is doing something on a consistent basis, which is learning, right? So will be considered will be considered as right candidate compared to other people, right? So if I am someone who is, right, so posting something on my LinkedIn post on daily basis, okay, my learnings and all of that, and right, those learnings are visible to almost like 500 people, right? So each and every day while they are scrolling through their the LinkedIn wall, right? Imagine, right, if there is any opening in their company, the first person that comes into their mind is you. Okay, so we will teach all the strategies, right? How you can present yourself in front of the Salesforce community so that you will get that particular advantage compared to others, right? So in this hard times, so that, right, so you don't you don't need to struggle a lot even after completing your program. So most of the, right, times what happens is that, right, in most of the training programs, they'll just simply teach the concepts and they'll leave you, right? So they'll not teach you about all of these things, right? Some people will promise that, right, we'll help you with your personal branding, blah blah blah, and all of that, right? Personal branding means there is a hell lot of there are a hell lot of things that are added to it. It is not just right, optimizing your LinkedIn profile or something like that, right? So there are many more things that are added to it, right? That you have to consider, right? So all of these things will teach you how to do that, right? So that's what this personal branding is all about. Okay, so and after that, right, now you have personal branding and all of that, right? So having knowledge, right, so having hands-on experience, certifications with us, personal branding is not just enough, right? So if you have to get the job, you have to crack the interviews, right? So what is that you have to do to crack an interview, right? So you have to prepare for the interviews, right? How you can prepare for the interviews, right? So if you have to prepare for the interviews, okay, if you have to prepare for the interviews, there are few things that you need to consider, right? So for each and every concept, right, you should know how to present that particular concept when someone asks you a question. Okay, and there are few tips that you need, few things that you need to consider, right? So while so attending an interview, so that the interview will go in a perspective, right? So the way you want. Okay, it is not right, so the way the interviewer want, right? You can turn that interview in such a way, right? The interviewer is asking the questions that so that you're so aware of, right? So the answers to the questions that you are aware of, right? So we can direct the interview in such a way, right? So how we can do all of that, right? Those kind of tips and everything, right, will give you right, while you prepare for the interviews, right? So there are separate sessions for the interview preparation where we'll give you all the right, so what is it, right? The frequently asked questions in the interview based on concept wise, right? So and how you have to present yourself and all of that, right? So there the communication is very key, right? For someone to perform well in an interview. So for that reason, right, we will right, train you on soft skills, right? And at the same time, right, so we'll make sure that you are presenting well when someone asks you a question, right? So the technical presentation, how you can answer to a technical question in a proper way so that the other person can understand it. Okay, so this is also very much right, needed, right? For that reason, there is one thing that we do on very frequent basis, which is, so once we complete a particular concept, right, so within our development, okay, so we'll make you present that particular concept in front of all of your batchmates. Okay, and your batchmates also will ask you questions, right? So imagine if you are doing that for 14 weeks of time, right? So every 2 weeks, 7 to 8 presentations, right? By the time you complete all of those presentations, right, you'll only see a different person of yourself, right? So this has been so this is happening with all of our students, and they have seen that difference. And right, so many of the students have said the same thing, right? So before I joined, right, so I was very so shy kind of person, and now I'm confidently able to present something, right? That's how we'll make, right? So this is what, right, so we'll make you this is how we'll make you in terms of right, interview preparation and all of that. So now you have prepared for the interviews and everything. So but you have to I'm like appear for the interviews, right? So right, so anyway, we'll help you with the personal branding, so that if there are any openings, so the people who are there in your community will definitely help us. But along with that, right, so along with that, so we will also help you get some interview calls. Okay, so we do conduct drives on frequent basis, right? So we'll bring consulting companies, right, to take so interviews and so hire our students, right? So we confidently say that, right, our students are far better than compared to all other right, so students who are coming from different training programs. And we strongly believe that, right, our students are equally experience, so equally skilled compared to, right, so 1 year or 2 year experienced Salesforce developer, right, who is working out there in the ecosystem, right? That's what we claim. And right, so that will so that is happening, right? And that is happening, and that will happen for you as well, right? If you follow all the things that whatever we ask you to do throughout the program. Okay, so if you're successfully completing this program, then you'll definitely see yourself as a different person, and you will come out as someone who is having at least 1 to 2 years, right, so of experience, right? So within the Salesforce development domain, right? So that's what so these are all the things that we, right, so we help you with, right? The sixth thing is applying for jobs, right? That's where also we'll help you. Okay, so now what I'll do is, right, I just told you, right, these are all things that we do and all of that. I'll show you each and everything, right, so how we are doing it and how the whole platform of ours looks like, right, so and so it is not just about talking, right? So probably you could have already heard, right, people saying that, hey, we help you in your resume building, we will teach all the concept, right? We have hands-on, and so we'll help you with LinkedIn, blah blah blah, and all of that, right? So talking is different and doing is different, right? So but I'll show you, right, so how we do, and so how our students are rocking, so at each and every stage. Okay, so just give me a second, let me clear all of these drawings and let me quickly show you that, right? So let me come here. Okay, right, so this is where it is, right? This is one of our job ready programs. Okay, so if you come here, right, so each and every day there will be concepts, right? So if you look at day 5, fields in Salesforce, right, this is where, right, so a concept has been explained to our students, right? So where what are the fields in Salesforce and all of that. So right, this is somewhat related to admin, but so this is how the whole the course structure would look like, right? So so whatever class that happened, right, so the class recording will be provided here, right? So that webinar or whatever, I've told you earlier, right? So that particular so concept, so that particular video will be available for you. So once the class is done, right, so before the class you will not get access to it, right? Once the class is done, so you'll have access to it like this. Okay, so and what all things that were discussed in the class, so those things will be highlighted over here, and you can right, so go through the video once again if you want to, right, so what is it, right, so refer back. Okay, so and along with that, as I told you, for each and every concept we'll have hands-on exercises as well. Okay, so since you are developers, right, so let me show you one of the developer hands-on. Okay, so if you look at this particular day 44, right, so Apex fundamentals or something like that. So but for you guys, right, it will be from day 1. Why? Because right, so that's how, right, that's where, right, so all the programming basics and everything starts from. Okay, so if you look at this, right, so Apex fundamentals, right, this is one of the classes, right, so that were happened on this particular topic. And if you go to the hands-on for this Apex fundamentals, right, this is where you'll see the hands-on, right? So as I told you, right, this way you'll have so hands-on for each, and so related to that particular topic, right, this is how the hands-on will be, right? It is not just like, so we'll ask you to so complete this particular problem within your hands, within your Salesforce org or something like that. So we don't do it like that. Okay, so we have a separate tool for it. Okay, so we call that a Salesforce Labs tool. Okay, so Labs of Excelling Academy. Okay, where you can practice that particular problem, so within our platform itself. Okay, so what is that you'll get, right? So this is what it was asked to create a method named return sum that takes two numbers as integers and return their sum. Okay, so since you are learning, right, so what is it? Operators, right? So in the Apex fundamentals, right? So you'll have problems related to that, and you have to write that particular program over here. Okay, so once you wrote that particular program, what is that you have to do is, right, so but before that, you can connect your Salesforce orgs, all the hands-on orgs, right, the trailhead orgs that you create, right? So those trailhead orgs you can connect here, and then you can just simply write the program for it, and you can verify it. Okay, so if your code is success, if you have written that code successfully, your right, challenge will be verified. Otherwise, right, it will be considered as you haven't completed it. Okay, and we'll have track of right, how many exercises that you have completed, and how so what all exercises that you haven't completed for a given day, and all of that. And you'll have your mentors back of you, right, following up all the time why you haven't completed it and all of that, right? It is not just about following up, right? So, and if you are facing any challenges, right, they are there to help you at each and every stage to make sure that you are completing all the hands-on exercises. Okay, it is not just one, right? So this way, right, there is one more hands-on we have it here, right, which is like variable declaration. What it is, what does it say, right? It is saying that declare an integer variable named age with a value of 25 and output it to the debug log, right? So I'll just simply write that particular code, right? It is not more than 2 or 3 lines of code, right? Since you don't know what, right, how the development works and all of that, right, how the coding will be and all of that, you don't need to worry about it. Okay, so I'm just simply writing something, right, which is a solution for this particular hands-on, and see how the tool looks like, right? So it is just we want to give you an experience of how this looks like and all of that. Okay, so let me declare a variable, right, which is integer, and what is that it was asked, right, and we have to assign it a value of 25 to it. Okay, so let me assign a value of 25 to that, and what was asked right here, and output it to the debug log, right? So in Salesforce we have something called system.debug. Okay, so which prints a particular value, right? So whatever that we give in here, right, it will print that. Okay, so let me give this value, and let me one second, right? So, and let me verify it, right? That is what so asked here. Okay, so let me verify this challenge and see, right, whether I have written the right code or not. If I have written the right code, right, it will consider that as successful one. If not, right, it will just simply say that, hey boss, right, there is some error here or there, right, please check it out, right? So let me write the faulty code, right, first, right? Let me remove the semicolon. If I remove that semicolon, right, it's a syntax error. Okay, so let me verify it. So now see what happens with the test cases. Okay, right, so now, yeah, so it is saying that so test 1 failed to compile with some sort of error, right? So or something like that. That is what it is, right? So there is an unexpected token, means there is a syntax error. Okay, I've just added that semicolon here, and let me verify this challenge once again and see what will happen. See, now I have passed this particular challenge, right? This is how each and every challenge will be verified, right? So now let me refresh this, and once the challenge is done, right, so that will be highlighted in green color. That means, right, I have completed the challenge, right? So only if you complete that challenge, you'll be able to watch the next day's class, right? And otherwise you'll not be able to do that, right? So that's where you might need help from your fellow, so your mentor or whatever it could be. And there is one good thing that we do is, right, we have created entire community for you people, right, to collaborate between so all the fellow learners. It is not just like you'll come and learn and go. Okay, so once you come here, right, so you'll be like part of a family. Okay, so you'll be like part of a family where you can talk to your mentors, and you can talk to your so fellow learners and all of that. So we have a community for that, and we have enabled so collaboration here. And if I want to talk to, right, any of my fellow learners, I can just simply go to the network, right? So, and I can just simply reach out to all the people that are there in my right so community. Okay, so that's how it is, right? So let me go to, right, so any of the charts or something like that, right? Here there is someone named Jayant, here there is someone named Padmini, right? So here there is someone named Padmini, right? So, right, so that way you'll have your teammates over here, and you can talk to them, and you can have video calls, you can have audio calls, and all of that. Okay, and you can have the screen sharing sessions as well. Okay, so collaboration is very, very much important. Why? Because 14 weeks is not just a small journey, right? So it is like more than 3 months, right? So 3 months, 2 weeks or something like that. Okay, right. So and I know, right, so most of the times we lose the motivation, and sometimes, right, so we'll just simply slip away from that journey. So that's where, right, we need someone who can pull us up, right? So your mentors can do that, your fellow learners also can do that. Okay, so that is the reason why we have built this community. Okay, it is not just you, right? So you can reach out to anyone from your cohort like this. As I just told you, if you click on so your team members, you can see all the people that are there in your cohort, and you can just simply reach out to all of those people. Okay, so that's how this hands-on is all about. Okay, so now you have acquired the knowledge by attending each and every day's classes, right? And you know how to apply that particular knowledge as well. And there is one more thing that I've told you, which is industry ready experiences, right? So the projects, right? So if you come to the programs, right, this is how right, you'll have access to all of like the program that you're part of. Okay, so even though the classes are right, so so the broadcasting classes, right, you'll have the live Q&A sessions with your mentor, right? So but still, right, so those classes will be, right, updated here, right, and you'll be given access to a specific program based on the program that you have enrolled. Okay, so now in this case, what happens, right? So if you clearly observe, right, there are few programs, okay, like Salesforce admin or Salesforce consultant industry ready experience. This is a project. Okay, so the same way, right, so right, so you'll be worked on multiple projects, right? So let me show you one more project as well, right? If you come down, right, so this is Service Cloud related project, right? So that way, right, so we have multiple projects, right? So you'll be given access to these projects, and you'll be guided on these projects as well, how to do that and all of it, right? It is not just, right, so you'll be given access to it and you'll be asked to, right, do it on your own or something like that. Okay, you'll be divided into teams, and so there will be a mentor who will be guiding throughout the project to make sure that you're completing that particular project. Okay, so let me open any of the projects, right? So if we open any of the projects, right, it starts with business case. Okay, so right, let me open the business case, right? So you'll have the business case, right? What is the so what is the particular, like, for which company we are building right, this particular project, what is that requirement, right? What is that they're looking for, and all of that, right? So and based on that, you have to complete this whole project, right, in multiple sprints. If you don't know what sprints are, you don't need to worry about it, right? And if you're already someone who is working into IT, you could have already know what sprints are, right? So the whole project will be divided into sprints, and you have to right, deliver things within those sprints, right? Based on whatever deliverables that were given for you, right? As a right, part of this particular project, right? So now you have gained the knowledge, and you have gained the hands-on experience as well. Okay, and the third part, right, what is that I've told you? I've told you about the certifications, right? So now let me take you to one of the certifications, right? So here we have certification prep programs as well, as I told you earlier, right? So you'll be given access to the certification prep tests as well, right? So now what you'll have here, right? So now let me open that, right? So and see what you'll have, right? So within the certification preparation test, right? So this particular certification exam is for like mock tests are for associate certification, right? So we have a certification named Salesforce Associate, right? So for that particular certification, right, these are the tests. I'm just simply showing a demo of one of the projects. Okay, so now these are all the sections that you'll have for that particular certification exam. Salesforce ecosystem, right, 32% of the questions come from this particular section. Navigation, right, 28% of the questions come from this particular so right, skill set, right? Data modeling, reports and dashboards, right? So if you go to any of this, right, so you'll have separate quizzes, right? So multiple quizzes you'll have, right? So you can so go through each and every quiz. You can start the quiz, and you can just simply write all of you. Like, so you can so prepare here, right? It will show you how many of the answers are correct, right? So where you are lagging and all of that, so that you can just go back and prepare, right? So well in order to appear for that particular exam. Okay, so this is also done, right? So now you have gained the experience, right? So you have got the knowledge, right? So you were ready for the certification as well, right? So once you do this, you'll be like, so completed, right? The third strategy that what we have given you. And what is the next one, right? So as I told you earlier, the next one is personal branding. Okay. Right. So now let's right. So look at few of our students, right? Who have, right, so done well with their personal brandings, and who also got, job opportunities. Let's look at Pavitra. She's one of our students, right? So she got her job through her personal branding only. Okay. So LinkedIn helped her get into that first Salesforce job, right? So we have helped her in optimizing her LinkedIn profile. Okay. So see, right, so there is a featured section, and she recently started writing Salesforce, so blog as well, right? She has started something called Salesforce Tales newsletter on LinkedIn, right? So, and almost like there are 740 subscribers also, you can see this. And she started writing, right, so her journey, right, explaining her journey and all of that. Okay. And along with this, right, she used to post her daily learnings as well, right? I'm like, so till she got the job, she has done that. So now she is posting some other things, right? Which could help her build her brand. Okay. So within the ecosystem, so that she can be recognized as thought leaders or whatever it could be, right? So if you look at her post, right, for each and every post, she is getting almost like 49 likes, 134, 119, right? Average, right? In recent times, she's getting 120 or 130 likes for each and every post she is, right, so posting over there. That means she's getting good engagement, right? She has been recognized, and right, she's doing pretty well. Okay. So that's what it is, right? So now let me show you one more guy, right? This guy's name is Purushottam. Okay. So right, so this guy's name is Purushottam. So he is also one of our students, right? Let me go back to the post that what he has, right, so what posted, right? So that I want to tell, right? So if you look at this, right, see, many people are right, so responding to his posts. Okay. And if you look at this, right, even Trailhead also responded to his email, so to his so LinkedIn post, right? So what did he say, right? On your way to hitting 70 plus badges, 20 super badges, and 5 projects, Kumari, we are cheering for you. Okay. So when Trailhead responded on it, just imagine how much visibility he'll get. Okay. So, and this won't happen in a single day, right? So someone has to do it on a consistent basis to get that sort of results, right? So now let's look at someone named Shileka, right? So she's also one of our students, right? So she has started, she has also started doing her, working on her personal branding. Okay. So just look at the comments that she is receiving, right? People are recognizing her, right? So let me show you, right, few of the cons. I'm like, so what is it, comments, right? So Sunil said this is consistency, right? Raki Parihar said keep growing, right? So these people are from the Salesforce ecosystem, if you clearly observe it, right? So, and right, so let me show you some more comments, right? So let me show you that. Okay. Right. See, Avinash Varikuti, right? Someone has commented on our post, right? See what he is saying. Your progress is good. I'm seeing you from the last 30 days. You're constantly learning. You're one of the star performer. I hope you're checking project perspective also, right? So that means people are recognizing her, right? The people who are there in, right, the community are recognizing her, right? So people may not respond sometimes, but passively they'll be consuming your content. That means, right, just imagine, right? So if there is any opening that is there in Avinash company for a fresher, right, who is that, so come into his mind, right? So Shilaka is the one that so sparks in his mind, and so she's the one, right, so we'll get that in, so interview opportunity. Okay. That's how we can overcome these hard times, right? If you are having a good personal brand, right, so you'll be able to, right, so get out of these adverse conditions that are there in current, that we are currently having in the job market. Okay. So, and look at one more student, right? So he's also, right, one of so our students named Nagraj Tanku, right? So he's also doing pretty well, right? So he's also constantly posting his learnings and everything. If you look at the number of, right, likes and the comments that he's getting, right, so he's getting very, very good engagement. Okay, so 10 comments and 4 reposts, right? So here, if you look at this, there are 14 reposts and 24 comments. And who are these people commenting on this post? People who are there in the community, right? People who are there in the community are engaging with these posts, right? So again, right, so this guy also will definitely get opportunities when, right, there are any openings that are there in the people, right, who is engaging with this post, right? So that is very, very much important, right? So that's how, right, this personal branding thing works. And right, so we help you, right, build your personal brand, right? So there are a lot of strategies that you can follow and all of that. It is not just about, simply optimizing the profile, right? There are a lot of things and tips and tricks that you need to follow in order to build a proper personal brand. So we'll help you with all of that. Okay, so that personal branding thing is also done. And what's next, right? As I told you, interview preparation. In interview preparation, right, so what is that we'll do, right? So first thing, right, we'll help you build your resume like this. Okay, so this is one of our students' resume. Okay, so we'll help you so build your resume like this, right? We'll have separate resume classes, and so we'll go through each and every so one of your resumes, and if there are any changes that needs to be done, right, we'll make sure that you'll be doing those changes and all of that, right? Along with this, right, as I told you, you'll have, right, so regular so frequently asked interview questions, right? Regular presentations, right? That happens, right? So on weekly basis. And along with that, right, so we'll take mock interviews as well. Okay, so we'll take mock interviews as well, so that it will become easy for you to perform in the real interview. Okay, so so that's where, right, so some people might say that we'll take mock interviews also, right? They'll just simply put that in offerings. But right, so just imagine, right, how many right, so if there are 30 people in a batch, right, or 20 people in a batch, right, if someone has to take interviews for all of those people, how much time it will take, right? If someone is investing 1 hour a day, right, so it will take at least 30 or 40 days. But here it will not happen like that, right? We have group of mentors, right? We have a community of mentors who are there to help our students. So for that reason, right, each and every student will get an opportunity to have so the mock interview experiences as well. Okay, so that is also one of the things that will make sure you're going through. And at last but not the least, right, I just want to show you one thing, right? So right, so when we say we'll help you with the job assistance, right, it is not just that, right, we'll just simply train you and leave you. Okay, so we'll try to help you with the placements as well. Okay, so but right, if you look at this right, these emails, right, so and so these are the emails that I've sent in the last couple of days to different companies, saying that, right, so we have good talent, right? So these candidates are as good as 1 year experienced candidates, right? So they are trained on admin flows, Apex development, and Lightning Web Components. Why don't you come and so interview them, right? And take the best candidates, right? This is how we are doing it, right? We are reaching out to multiple people, and so most of the companies have responded to us, and so with few of the companies we have set up the interviews as well for few of our candidates. And this is also something I want to be transparent on it, and I want to, right, showcase you, right? I want to show it to you, right? So this is what the whole thing is all about. And if you want to take any feedback, right, you can reach out to any of our students who are already learning from from us, right? And they'll definitely give you the honest feedback. Go and talk to them, right? This is something I always ask people to do before choosing any of the program. It's not just about our program, right? You can choose any of the training program. If you want to choose any of the training program, there are few things that you need to keep in mind, right? Who is your trainer, right? What are his credentials, right? How many years of experience that he is having. So and at the same time, how he teaches, right? So that is very, very much important. The experience is not just enough, right? So if he is not able to right, so make people understand the concepts in a simple way, so that is again a very much right, difficult thing for the students who are learning from them, right? So for that reason, you have to make sure, you have to know who your trainer is, right? What are his credentials, how many people he has trained so far, right? So and you have to take the feedback from his students as well, right? Someone will claim something that we'll do this, but whether they're doing that or not, you have, how you'll get to know, right? So not after enrolling into the program, right? So before that, you have to do your research by talking to people, right, who are learning from the trainer and all of that, right? That is also you can do, right? You will definitely, I believe people will definitely give some honest, right, so good feedback. You can talk to them. And the program structure also you have to, right, look at. And we have already shown you what kind of program structure we have, right? One-on-one mentorship also you'll be so whether you are having it or not, right, that is also something you have to look at, right? So as I told you, right, so when the journey is long, right, so there are more chances that we'll demotivate and we'll right, slip away in that particular journey. Most of this happens with right, so everyone, right, it happened with me also, right, when I started learning Salesforce. But when you have people who are in the same path, right, when you are with that group of people, right, surrounded with that group of people, then, right, so even if you are low, then the people who are around you will always try to help you up, right? So pull you up, right? So that is something we always have through our P2P learning and through our community, that what I've shown you, right? So once you join the program, so you'll be given right, access to all of them, and we'll show you how to use it, right? How to collaborate with your peers and all of it. And at the same time, right, so you'll have your mentors who are always there to right, clear your doubts. And at the same time, right, it is not just about clearing the doubts, right? Our mentors are like right, they'll help you with what more, right? So they'll definitely, so they are good right, so motivators as well, right? So you can always go to them and you can share your so whatever problems that you're facing, there is always something that they can help you with. Okay, so job assistance is also something you have to look at, right? So these are the things. If you look at all of those things, and if someone is providing all of that, and if they're having good track record, right, then you can join that particular program without any right, second thought. Okay, so that's what, so I want to tell you. And you can go through the testimonials as well. The testimonials will be somewhere within this particular landing page. You can check that also, right? So, and along with it, right, so if you want to experience how the how our teachings would be, right, I would recommend to go through the playlist, that whatever that you are seeing right, down here after this particular video, right? So in the next section you'll be able to see that down, playlist. Just go through it. If you love my teaching, right, so, and if you feel like you're able to understand it, then you decide it for yourself, right? We just don't want you to push to join our program or something like that. So just go through that and decide for yourself. I'll definitely feel like you will love it. And so see you very soon within our program, right? So with this, I'm ending the session. Thank you very much for your patience, and thank you very much for waiting for this much time, right? So probably by now, right, you could have filled a form right, to share your details and all of that, right? Someone from our team will reach out to you, and they will definitely, right, so help you out with so any of the questions that you are having and all of that. If you have any of the questions, they'll definitely help you out clarifying all of your questions. If you haven't filled the form, right, so somewhere within this landing page, right, so you'll see that button as well, right? So click on that button and fill up your information, right? So you are just simply a click away for someone from our team to reach out to you and clarify all of your questions. See you in the program. Bye-bye.